Hello, and welcome to the Guilbault Girls Show, where you will have the opportunity to hear from mothers, fathers, siblings, and individuals themselves about their journey of living with a disability. I know, it's called Guilbault Girls, but we have a bonus for you as we get the Guilbault boys to interview some of the dads and siblings and get their perspectives too. We'll also have special guests from time to time to share the many resources that are available to those living with a disability and their families. So get ready to laugh, smile, cry, maybe even get a little angry when you hear some of these stories of their day-to-day struggles. But let's not forget their many triumphs. As they say, it takes a village. And if it weren't for our village, we wouldn't be where we are today. So join us. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Guilbault Girls Show. I'm your host, Karen Guilbault, along with my husband,
Jesse Guilbault.
Yep. And today's guests are high school sweethearts, Kim and Justin. What's your last name?
Waszkiewicz.
Love it. Of Havity, Grace, Maryland. Justin and Kim are high school sweethearts from two different worlds who were meant to be. They have watched each other grow and transform through their journey, but what remains the same is their love. Kim likes to keep Justin on his toes with all of her dreams and spontaneous ideas, and he goes above and beyond to make them happen, because he makes you happy doing it, right?
Oh.
They became parents at 28 and found out that their daughter had Down syndrome. This caught them by surprise and opened doors to a community that taught them how to love with compassion. They then had their second child, Isaac, who taught them how to love everyone. He also taught them a lot about grace. Nora and Isaac have been advocating since they were both 3 months old. They have done this through advocating on Capitol Hill, modeling to promote inclusive marketing, and now through travel and art with Isaac's aNORAble home. They are a family who simply want to spread awareness about life with disability in order to embrace everyone as an individual. They also want to emphasize that everyone is worthy and worth does not come from what someone can or cannot do. So welcome. I'm
you.
so
Thank you
excited to
having us.
have you guys. I just thought it was awesome. When I had missed the ARCS festival, the Sprout Festival, and then when I saw the information, because I think they had something on there with you guys and sent it out to everybody. I'm like, oh my gosh, get out of here. So I went into development and I asked Kelly, I'm like, hey, she's like, oh my gosh, they're so awesome. And that she went to the leadership
Leadership Academy, Harvard Leadership.
Yeah. And and then I just thought, how awesome when I reached out and you got back to me so quickly, and you guys are just amazing. So
Thank you.
Thank
you.
And I love the fact that you two are high school sweethearts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coming up on 20 years next year.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. That's
Happy as
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
That was our first time at a Sprouts Festival. And after going to one, I highly recommend everyone experience the Sprout Film Festival at least once in their life. It's a great cause. And the films that were shown were just so eye-opening, not just for us as disability parents, but we brought my father, and my father was just like, wait, like, how do I see more of this? I learned so much.
Your eyes to so much,
Yeah.
But,
the first year we went, and I brought Faith because I wanted her to experience it and see other people like her, which was awesome. And then the year before the world shut down, we actually did the adaptive clothing. So we did a fashion show, and that was actually they filmed part of it, but it never aired when we were on for Face documentary. And and I got all of everything donated by all the different adaptive clothing wear. Yeah. And we picked a lot of the different individuals, and it was cool. It was cool. So they did that, and then they did the films afterwards. But
I loved it. Yes. And I'm glad it brought us to you.
Awesome. Well, I have to say, Sean was in my office the one day, and I was like, oh my gosh, you'll never guess what, I connected with them. And she's like, aren't they just the sweetest thing? And she goes, you know who they remind me of, right? And I'm like, what? And she's like, you and Jesse, because we were your age. Basically, Faith was in, oh my gosh, she wasn't even in kindergarten yet, probably, when we met Sean and them. So we were once like you guys, and now we're old.
Yeah.
When you guys came here, I was like, I admire your marriage. I admire you both as parents, and just watching you all, I felt like I was watching like just, I don't know, just a work of art and how you all support each other. It looked like just three people doing the tango and you all knew how to help each other.
Synchronicity was
yes, it was just beautiful. And I was like
I remember that evening she was like, weren't they like amazing? They
oh,
worked so well, and it was just,
wow.
it was awesome. It was really great having you guys here.
Aw, you guys are so cute. All right, well, let's dive in. Let's start off with how your pregnancy was with Nora. So how did you feel, first of all, finding out that you were pregnant? And then what was your experience through that pregnancy? Was there any complications? And then at what stage did you find out about her diagnosis? I know that was a lot.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We were very excited to get pregnant. It wasn't the easiest thing, which we learned, we didn't see that coming either, but that was a challenge within itself. And but we were trying to get pregnant. We chose to, it was time to be parents. That was the next chapter that we wanted to start in our life. And
after we found out, we found out we were pregnant, and it was awesome. It was amazing. We were so excited.
Yeah.
And then it was, I think, 3 months in, this one over here had a medical emergency.
Yeah.
3 months, but this is before we found out Nora's prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome. So we were in New Jersey visiting family at the time, and we knew she was pregnant, and she woke up at midnight, May 30th, coming up on the anniversary.
Yeah.
May 30th, so about 7+ years ago. Woke up with excruciating pain, rushed her to the hospital. Turned out she had an ovarian torsion. Basically, the ovary had twisted. After telling them that, she was pregnant and everything, and they didn't know exactly what was going on at first, she went in for emergency surgery, and she got taken care of. The hospital took care of her. They had to, remove her ovary and her fallopian tube. So she has one of each left. But while she was in there, the doctor comes out to me in the waiting room. He goes, "Look, your wife is fine. We removed it. It was a big, ovarian torsion. It was causing a lot of damage. So we removed it. And by the way, I saw your daughter."
No, your baby.
But no, the baby, your baby. Because we didn't know it was a girl yet. He said, "I saw your baby."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, because he had to go in through the belly and move Nora to the side and operate on Kim.
That was great.
And it was a spectacular experience just to hear that. So that was a little different than you would normally have.
Yeah.
So we had that experience. So she recovered from surgery. And then
we had a gender reveal party. And I remember putting the knife in the cake, and I was like, and I put it again because it was still pink. And I was like,
she was set that it was a boy.
I felt like that was the first time I felt like guilt as a parent. I was like, I don't even know her. I thought she was a boy the whole time. Oh. And
but I don't think you had, other than the surgery, I don't think you had any unusual signs of like, any other pregnancy issues than the normal like sickness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it was around the 6-month mark. Well, leading up to 6 months, we started getting these markers. The nasal bone appears to be quite shorter on the ultrasound. The anatomy scan of Nora's thighs were shorter.
Femur bone was shorter.
The femur bones were shorter. I remember the nasal bone was a big marker. And then there was some kind of it's like a nuchal fold or something on the back of the neck, but that didn't really show up. So that they were still kind of like teetering back and forth of whether or not they want to proceed forward with checking out for Down syndrome. Right. So after they were telling us a couple of these different markers, we said, you know what, let's do a blood test.
Yeah.
So we did a blood test, and the blood test came back, and it's not like 100. No, it is 100%.
It was like 99.
Yeah.
And I was shocked.
We had gone in.
Yeah. Well, during the anatomy scan, I felt like everything was quiet in that. And they literally brought out a textbook, got another doctor in, and I felt like everybody was kind of talking over, like we weren't even in the room at that point. And they were talking amongst themselves about what they were seeing, I don't know if somebody was a student, but kind of felt like it was a bit insensitive, like just the delivery of that moment where it's like, maybe your baby has Down syndrome, maybe not, but I need to take out my textbook and show this person, and now we're going to have a conversation while you guys are kind of like in your heads about what is going on as new parents, first-time parents.
So the anatomy scans, all the anatomy scans are coming back with these markers that they call them for potential for Down syndrome. So they were going through, and we don't know anything about anything at this point. We don't know nothing about Down syndrome. We're brand new parents. So we're just taking the lead to all these medical professionals, geneticists and the doctors for primary care. And then at one point they said, you know what, let's do a blood test. So she had gotten the amniocentesis, right? Yeah, they go in and they pull out the blood and just to test it for laboratory results. And then I was at work in my office, and I got a phone call from the geneticist office, and she said the blood test came back, and it's positive for Down syndrome, T21. And I said, is that Down syndrome? She said, yeah, that's Down syndrome. So I took a deep breath. I kind of had to absorb that moment by myself for a minute, and then I knew I couldn't wait, and I knew Kim didn't want me to wait, so I had called her on the phone, and she was at work, and then you took that call from me.
Yeah. I kind of I had to go home. I had to process this at home. It wasn't an easy, I don't know if I ever thought we'd have a baby with a disability, and then to be young parents, 28. I think everybody was in shock. I think even the geneticist was shocked, just telling us like we weren't high risk for being parents of a child with Down syndrome. Right. But or I would say we didn't think we were that lucky. If we only knew then what we know now.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And what kind of support did you have along the way? And maybe share with others out there, that maybe you're going through what you all did, just how key it is to have that support, number one, right? And that guidance and understanding, because again, you're young parents just finding this out. I mean, of course you lean on each other, but what other supports did you have, and what advice would you have for other people that might, get that same diagnosis?
I think the only person I wanted to hear anything from was somebody who went through it. So we had a mentor through the Maryland Down Syndrome Association group. Okay. And her name is Beth, and her son's name is Henry. And it was just so different from sitting in a room with a geneticist who has no personal connection to anyone with a disability, and they're just reading pamphlets to us and the room spinning, and it's like, well, you guys are young, you can try again. Do you want to give her up for adoption? Do you want to continue with your pregnancy? And these are all the things that she will have difficulties with in her life. And I didn't want to hear it from this person who didn't go through it, didn't know anything that they were pretty much telling us to expect about a child who wasn't even here yet. I wanted to hear it from the families that went through it. So we connected to the mentor, and then Justin immediately connected to Juwan the Mast. At the time, she was with the National Down Syndrome Society, and now she's with the National
Down Syndrome Congress.
Down Syndrome Congress.
Yeah, she was the head of the grassroots advocacy for National Down Syndrome Society. And like Kim said, now she's with the National Down Syndrome Congress, and one of the most phenomenal people we've ever met. She has an adult daughter now, Rachel, with Down syndrome, and just her words of advice, just everything. Same thing like when Kim talks about Beth being the mentor, connecting with families who've already, have gone through this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was the greatest that was the best support we could have had, was that. I was I felt like it was insulting for somebody to, and I knew it didn't come from a bad place. It's their career, but I felt I would have appreciated them recommending a mentor. I had to search for that. He had to search for that.
Okay, so you had to search for it. Yeah. See, there should be something in place that when that happens here, automatically connect you with the social worker of the hospital or whatever to put you in with, wow.
Yeah, we didn't have that experience. We had like the basic geneticist list of things that are wrong. And I remember we were sitting in this geneticist office. She went through a list of things that can be wrong with your child, as opposed to
immediate. It was as soon as we got the diagnosis. So there wasn't any processing. Like, we just got the news, and then it was like, now I'm just going to throw out this list of things that it was just a little overwhelming. Very clinical, not personal in any way. Nora was not a person. That's how I felt. She was not a person to them. She was a choice.
When you had her, how did everything go with your pregnancy and after? And does she have any other health issues, if any? And I know that a lot of people with Down syndrome, they have a lot of heart issues, correct?
Yeah, about 50% roughly are born with some sort of a heart defect. And in our case, Nora wasn't born with a heart defect. She had a small hole in her heart that wasn't closing. I think most babies have a small hole, but hers took a long time to close. So they were watching that. She was going to frequent cardiology appointments, and that finally closed up. And then the doctor called us, or no, we were in his office, and he turns his chair around after evaluating the ultrasound and the EKG and everything. And he spins his chair around. He looks at us in the eye, and he goes, "Well, sad to say, but you're not going to be my patient anymore." And we were like, "Whoa!" He's like, "Because her heart." He said the heart spontaneously closed, and we don't have to come back here anymore, unless, of course, something shows.
I think she was maybe 2, because I remember we saw Santa 3 times, and our routine was we would see Santa. That's what we would ask for, and then we would go see the cardiologist. Like, it always fell around the same time. We would go take a picture with Santa. And then the one year we told Santa we got our Christmas wish, and Santa lost it. And he was so happy. But other than that, she does not have any major medical concerns that were expressed she would have. And we appreciate the fact that that was, she would have a higher possibility of experiencing this. I just wish the delivery was a bit more personal, like not
delivery of the news.
The delivery of the news.
The actual delivery, because we knew going in Nora had Down syndrome, it wasn't, it wasn't like an at birth diagnosis. So the shock and stuff, we had already gone through that acceptance phase, and we understood she had it. So as soon as she was born, they like whisked her away, did all these little tests and stuff on her just to make sure everything looked good. And then she was in the NICU for
7 days.
Yeah, about a week or so, just to monitor, nothing major. They just wanted to make sure she was getting enough oxygen, things like that, but really just to keep an eye on
I think we went back a couple times after, and I think it was a combination of us being new parents to a child with a disability, and we were just like, we were back a couple of times after, but nothing major happened. I know she was on oxygen for a little. She needed a little bit of help making sure she got the right amount of oxygen. She needed a little bit of help with feeding. But I was able to nurse her, which was a big deal because that was one of the things they said she wouldn't be able to do.
The low muscle tone with the sucking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So she was able to nurse for, I think we did at least up to 6 months. But we brought her home after a week, and gosh, were we funny. Like, I look back because sometimes we save little things, and I look back at some of the things we saved as sitter because both of us had to go back to work, and it was like, if she's crying, she's probably hungry or tired. Like, we literally wrote that out as if somebody wouldn't know. So we definitely experienced like I guess the stereotypical first time parenting milestones for ourselves with her, which was sweet.
And
I I kind of wish I was a little bit more prepared for that versus like this doom and gloom. And it was like,
Yeah, we did it. We did enroll Nora immediately into infants and toddlers.
yeah,
Mhm.
sweet.
So she was in infants and toddlers, and she began. So our new parenting journey not only started as new parents to a baby, which is just crazy in itself, but then like 3 times a week we'd have people come to the house. Speech there, not it wasn't speech at first, was it?
It was PT, OT. I think she had a nurse. There was also like I guess they would consider them like a special educator, but not, I forgot the term, but it's
Right.
not schooling wise. But there was she was so sweet. She was
Yeah.
really good with Nora.
But she definitely had a handful of therapies right away.
Yeah, all
in
these
the mix of just all your other normal new parent duties and stuff. So
and appointments, and then the specialist, because she comes with the diagnosis of Down syndrome. It's like, okay, so she needs a specialist for this. It's like,
right.
whoo, and then all these people coming in the house, like.
So
woo.
did you guys both, how long were you able to take off from work? And then, who stepped in when you had to go back to work? I think that was like one of my worst things.
I think I had 8 weeks because I
Yeah.
had 8 weeks because I had to take 6 weeks off from the ovarian torsion. So I didn't have a very long time
She used up a lot of her work
With
leave
her-
for the emergency surgery.
because I had to recover from that. So it kind of felt like I had a C-section before I had my daughter.
Mhm.
And she was delivered naturally. So it was, I guess, that was the only thing that I read in the What to Expect When Expecting book that actually happened. Other than that book, I was like, no, no, we took a turn.
Yeah,
What not to expect when expecting.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was our book.
Yeah, we had I took off, so right when Nora was born, I think I took off just 2 weeks. And I was trying to save my time at work so that when she did go back or when we needed doctor's appointments or whatever. So I kind of spread my leave out over like the next 6 months to a year and took days here and there. And then she went back to work pretty soon. And then we had a variety of like 2 or 3 different sitters, private sitters, like a neighbor's mom, and then a old coworker of hers.
Yeah.
So we just had a mix, grandparents here and there. So, but we live far from our family. So, it's not like they're around the corner. They're all from New York and New Jersey. So we had to kind of seek out private sitters, and we had amazing people help us with that. We're very thankful. We had a lot of good people.
We had good people.
And
What
then,
made you guys move to Maryland?
well, I finished college in Philadelphia and went back to Jersey, and then I wanted to take some extra courses to possibly pursue a different career. So I came down here. My father lives down here, and so I stayed with him while I was doing some courses. And while I was finishing that, Kim was looking for an internship for her master's degree. And since we have like Johns Hopkins and Kennedy Krieger and all these world-renowned places, she was able to get in and do an internship for her master's at Kennedy Krieger. So then when she was down here, we were, thinking about where we would live and where we would settle down. And New Jersey's a little expensive. So we decided to stay here in Maryland.
Yeah.
And
That's
we
why we
just
didn't go
we just
back.
settled down here. Yeah.
And a small token, I still cannot get over the fact that your mother and your stepfather or your
Yeah.
they lived 1 block from where my grandfather's house was in Keensburg.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a small world.
Small world for sure.
Yeah. That's a
So
small
that
world.
kind of goes into, because my next question was, about you being an occupational therapist. Was that something that happened before you had kids, or was that inspired after you had Nora? But
That was before
Cool.
children. Thank goodness.
God was
I had
preparing
no idea why someone told me you would make an amazing OT. And I said, I'd never heard of an occupational therapist, but I need to make sure that we can provide a future for ourselves and our future family. So I think this sounds like something I would love to do and help people and help people be themselves in a world that isn't and it shouldn't be this way, isn't always made for their unique qualities. And yeah, so I had my internship, and it's so funny because Beth, who was my intern, I found out that she was my
mentor. I know what you
mentor.
meant. Yeah, mentor.
She was a PT at Kennedy Krieger, and it's just funny how we've probably crossed paths before I had Nora, and probably when she was pregnant with Henry. But yeah, and now that we have Nora and Isaac, I feel like my profession has helped so much with just making sure I can guide them. And Nora and Isaac, I feel like, have helped me with my career and just making it more personal. I can relate to my clients so much more than I was able to before. And I mean, if somebody wants to talk to me about disability, life with disability, I can't speak from that personally, but I can as a mom. And I feel like that changes things, which I'm grateful for.
So what did you guys, how long did you wait before you got pregnant with Isaac? And were you like, what was your mindset when you're like, okay, we're going to have another baby? Because I know it was hard for us because I had JD at 28 weeks. He was 2.5 pounds in the NICU, just under 2 months. So it took me a long time to be like, okay. And I'm like, all right, every pregnancy is different. So we waited 4 years before trying again. So, so how long did you guys wait, and how was that process, and what was going through your mind?
So Isaac.
Well, they
Kids
are
so cute.
They're 1 year and 11 months apart.
Okay.
So
we were ready for a sibling for Nora, and for reasons we never thought, there are reasons that maybe every family feels they're ready for a sibling, and then there's also reasons that families of children with disabilities think about, and that has to do with when we're not here. We didn't have Isaac just for Nora, but he is and will always be a very important person in Nora's life. And no one can deny that. And it's mutual. And when Isaac was easy to get pregnant with because now I only had one ovary. And so he was meant to be here. Everything happens for a reason. I do believe that, because if it wasn't for that happening, that medical, we didn't see that happening. I don't know if Isaac would be here. That's him making sounds up.
I can't even hear him.
Okay, good. He's like howling.
But yeah, I do believe that they did say that it was because she only had the one, it was a little different for her to get pregnant, and it was it happened much quicker.
Easier. And then carrying Isaac felt different. Definitely much more active than Nora. And till this day, that boy is a very active boy. I think there was one time we had to, Justin built the indoor wall climbing thing, the rock wall for Isaac, because he literally will climb the walls. And they're so good for each other. But, we did think about what if we did have another child with Down syndrome? And it was like, well, we did it once, we can do it again, and it won't be the end of the world, because she's pretty amazing.
And it's funny because her and I had sort of like an inside joke that when we would go to the doctors, and if they already knew that we have a child with Down syndrome, and they would ask us about like either testing or this or that or whatever. And anytime they brought up Down syndrome, her and I would be like, yeah, they might not have it. Kind of like, like upset that they won't have Down syndrome.
Because that's how they were talking to us every time they would tell us. And it was like, I don't know, we're very sarcastic too. We like to go about things with a sense of humor.
You have to.
Because it's just like sometimes I think if we take everything so personal, I think we'd be very unhappy people.
Mhm.
And not everything does come from a place of someone being mean. It truly doesn't always come out that way. They just don't know any better. And I remember getting testing for Isaac too, and I was holding Nora, and this is kind of odd. But I was holding Nora, and the nurse comes out and she's like, everything's okay. He does not have Down syndrome. I'm like holding my baby who has Down syndrome, who obviously has Down syndrome. I'm like, everything would have been okay if he did have Down syndrome. Like we've
You let any Jersey out?
It was so, I think
I would let a lot of Jersey out, just saying.
a deer in headlights. Like,
Yeah, I don't think they put it all together.
I have a lot of these moments. Like,
Uh-huh.
what?
When Karen starts talking with her hands, I know we're going somewhere.
Yeah, it's like maybe because I was holding. I'm more of the facial person. I'm just like, holy moly, how? But yeah, I told them. I said everything would be okay if he did, just like her, who's in my arms right now. And they're like, oh yes, yes. Like, yes.
We'd take Nora to the doctor's appointments, and she'd be listening to Isaac's heartbeat, and
Yeah,
It was
that
cool. It was a
nice.
good experience to have her be a part of all that too.
And then I was like, wait, do they need to like double check this and double check that? Because I mean, we had extra appointments with Nora,
Mhm.
and that was our first experience. And then we went to like half of that, and they were like, okay, bye. And I'm like, do you have to check his heart? Do you have like, do I come back next week? Are you gonna? And they were like,
They're like, nope.
no. And I was like, well, this is different.
Mhm.
Yeah, once you don't have a diagnosis of anything, they
That
reduce a lot of the
Other
appointments.
stuff, yeah.
was an adjustment. It was like to go from one to the other was definitely just interesting. And I was
So are you guys wanting to have any more kids?
So our third baby is Isaac's aNORAble home.
And we're gonna have a whole episode on that, and I can't wait.
That is baby number 3.
Yeah, I think we've decided that we're gonna.
Kids
stick
are
with the two.
hard.
Mhm.
And I think it's not Down syndrome. There are different challenges with Down syndrome as parents.
Mhm.
Can't deny that. But parenthood, and Isaac taught us, parenthood's hard. It's very hard. And we initially thought it was just Down syndrome. And then we had Isaac, and I was like, this is hard too. This is different hard.
We used to call our son, everybody used to call him Dr. D for Dr. Destruction. No matter what he touched, that boy.
Yes.
gosh.
It broke.
Yes. He was always getting into something,
No matter
always.
where we are, at whose house, something's getting broken.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not alone.
No, you're not alone. Not alone. So so the viewers can know, how old are the kids right now? And just tell us a little bit about them. And then we're going to go into marriage.
Okay.
So Nora is 7 and Isaac is 5. So they will be 6 and 8 at the in the fall, which is crazy to think about how
That's
fast that
hard.
went by.
That's hard.
Just wait. Mine's going to be 20 and 24.
And when they say, when they leave out, no, they're still kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So right now, 5 and 7.
Nora, I would say they're best buds. Today, like after school, I took them to the library while Justin was coming to meet me here. And so I do pick up, and I notice Isaac looks out for his sister, and sometimes I do catch myself saying, can you take an extra peek on Nora? Can you help her with this? But there are times where I'm not asking him, and he just takes it upon himself. And I want him to be that kind of adult. So I'm happy to see him do that with his sister naturally.
Yes.
And
He's developing a lot of compassion just on his own, because he sees us giving her a little extra help, but it's not in like
He doesn't have pity for his sister.
no, not at all. He's the last person who would ever have pity for her. And he corrects me too. If I'm trying to get out the door and like I'm trying to ask Nora to kind of, let's go. And he'll be like, Dad, she's doing this, or he'll tell Kim, Mom, she's
needs more
doing this.
time. And I'm like, thank you for being your sister's advocate. Yes, she does need more time. And you know what? I need you to tell me that sometimes, because she does need more time. And you're right, Isaac. And when he has those moments, it's
good. And the thing is with those two, like sometimes I get, not that I get worried, but sometimes I wonder when people are looking in, do they wonder if, do we give Nora all the attention and all this stuff? Absolutely not. In fact, it may actually be the opposite.
yes.
Nora, like you were asking about the kids, their personalities and stuff. Nora is the most easygoing human being I've ever met. She's down and cool to do whatever. We want to watch a movie, want to go to the park. She's fine. She's hanging out, and she has her own likes and dislikes like everybody else. Isaac, he sometimes wants to do something and his mind sticks to it, and he definitely wants to only do that.
Yeah.
But to see him have that compassion for his sister without like asking about it, just it's becoming a natural part of his life. And I love seeing that about them. I mean, their sibling dynamic is awesome.
And it's mutual too, because
oh yeah. She'll make sure we come into the house, and Nora is very routine based. So we come in the house and she'll tell Isaac, use the potty, wash your hands, take off your shoes. And so she's like on it too. She's with him.
Sister. And and I love that because he was but I like to see her take charge as well. I like to see her be a typical big sister, even though she has a diagnosis of Down syndrome. She still does take on that role. She cheers up her brother. She hugs him. I mean, they love each other. They hug each other. He bickers with her. She lets her baby brother get away with a lot. I think he'll try to bicker with her, and she's, come on, Isaac, come on. Like,
yeah.
But, or she'll, if she sees that he wants something and her little brother's having a harder time and she's playing with a toy, she'll give in. And I noticed that, like, she can read someone so well. And that's something people don't think when they see her, because sometimes Nora is quiet. And I think she is taking in everything and
she can read a room better than anybody. If there's a weird vibe in the room and she's not liking it, she will let you know. She definitely has that sixth sense of like being able to tell if somebody's upset, are you sad? You're not really quite as happy as you normally would. She'll give you a hug. She'll pat you on the back. And
very empathetic and I know she knows what's going on, because like when she's not feeling good and we have to give her medicine and we're trying to trick her into taking her medicine, she knows. You cannot play that girl. And I'm like, and I'm whispering, I'm like, we can sneak this in this little treat and give it to her.
She's got eyes on me. She's following where I'm going with the medicine. I'm like, I can't trick her.
And then her mouth is like, I heard your hand. I'm right here. Like, shucks.
That is so cute.
Yeah.
And Isaac, he's a ball of energy, and he's a whole episode of your podcast. He's a good person at heart, and he gives us a hard time because we're mom and dad.
Yeah,
he loves his sister. Nora loves her brother, and they're great. They're awesome together.
They like to so we have a thing where, to help Nora with her language, we try to read a book before bed out loud. So like, he'll pick his book, Nora pick her book, and they both read out loud, and it's really sweet. They both enjoy playing the piano. We had them in piano lessons, and that's a whole other episode too, because they both learn differently, but they're both learning, and they both have their passions and their likes. And I want other parents to know that moment you're sitting in the geneticist's office, they have no idea your 7-year-old girl is going to play the piano for you one day, just like her 5-year-old brother is. And it's it's frustrating because I think back to that Kim and Justin, like those younger versions of ourselves, and I'm like we didn't need it to be that hard or that sad at that time, and I don't want that for other parents. I want them to get a realistic understanding of what it's like. It's not all doom and gloom. Parenthood is hard. Down syndrome has its challenges, but there's so much more to it that make it all worth it, make Down syndrome worth it, make parenthood worth it. And I just want people to accept their children just as they are. You know, they asked us if we wanted to continue, and I remember like we chose to be parents. We didn't choose who we were parenting. And Nora just needed love, like Isaac needed when we were pregnant with Isaac. And it was, I felt like that should have been told to us. Like, you're still going to be a mom and dad. Your baby's coming into the world with Down syndrome. She's going to need love just like any other child. And she may need PT, OT. She may need this. Because of her diagnosis, she may have these challenges with, and it's, nope.
And I think one of the things that I like seeing, and I don't know the statistics or anything off the top of my head, but there's a lot of states that are changing laws around abortion. And if there's a diagnosis for Down syndrome, a lot of states are outlawing abortion for the purposes of just strictly Down syndrome. So I'm wondering if in those states, the geneticists are even bringing up the idea of abortion during their consult like they did with us. Right. So I'm wondering if that's something that's coming down the road. So if you have a typical child, you don't have a geneticist visit. If you have a child with a prenatal diagnosis of something and they sit down with you, for them to say, these are your options. You can keep the baby, you can give the baby up for adoption, you can abort the baby. I'm wondering if that's even going to be an option in the future if a lot of these states are going a different route with the way the laws are. So I'm curious, but that is one of our, one of the things.
It was like yin and yang with both pregnancies, because with Isaac, he didn't get any of that. And I'm glad I got to see both of it, because I'm glad we both got that experience of like what it should have been like for her too. But it was just very cold.
Yeah.
It was sad.
And then all marriage.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Let's talk marriage. So I saw an article on 5 reasons parents with special needs children split up. So there's 1, children need a ton of attention. 2, parents forget about each other. 3, you run out of time. 4, parents blame each other for stress and other issues. And 5, parents don't communicate. So there's so much truth to this, which is why I think it's so important to have that open communication, the supportiveness, understanding. What are some ways that you guys cope with it, and whenever things tend to be so much, and what advice would you give to other parents starting off on this journey?
Well, my initial thought with the question was about the relationship 2 people have before they even have a child. Kim and I are high school sweethearts. We've known each other since 8th grade. We started dating at 17 and have been together ever since. So to develop a strong base relationship initially, there isn't anything you can't, that you could throw at us that would break our marriage. A diagnosis of your child would certainly
You're making me emotional.
would come into play. I think a lot of those statistics of that article that you read, maybe those people just didn't have a very strong foundation. And whether it was a child with a disability or anything that may have come up in their marriage, maybe they were just gonna split up regardless. I think with Nora's diagnosis, again, everybody's child with Down syndrome or any disability is going to differ from one to the other. Because Nora doesn't have a lot of medical complications and she is just a typical person with a few things here and there, I don't think Down syndrome puts a strain on our marriage at all. I think parenthood just puts a strain on any relationship in general.
So in my opinion, I'm not going to speak for Kim, but Down syndrome has absolutely zero effect on our relationship as a couple, as a married couple, as parents to our children. It's just a thing in our life that we go about our day. And ways that we cope with it. I think we communicate really well. I think we know each other better than each other. So I guess our time, how long we've been together, plays a big part in how we get through adversity.
I think we both agreed to allow each other to get, like, there's different stages. Like,
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
Having a struggle with this, and this is how I feel, and I need help with it. And I feel like Justin will help me. Like, there's just this mutual agreement, like, guide me through this. Like, I don't like how I feel about Nora having to relearn something because she does have an intellectual disability. And I forget she has an intellectual disability sometimes because I'm mom and she's Nora, and we go about our lives and we don't think about it 24/7. And I'm like with her bike, oh gosh, I felt like I was having a baby tantrum because she was struggling with her bike, and we had already worked on the bike, and I had to step away. And I told Justin, like, I'm not mad that she's having a hard time with the bike. I'm mad that I'm having a hard time watching my daughter have a hard time with the bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need a minute because Nora, I don't want to make Nora feel bad that I'm having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that we've developed over time, especially with being parents, we didn't do this when we didn't have kids because there was no need to, but like if I'm having a really hard time with something, she could just give me a look where I just need to step away from the situation because I don't need to get more upset. I don't want the kids to see us getting upset. And if she's having the same kind of feeling, we'll just kind of communicate where we're like, we just need to both step away, or one of us needs to step away from the situation.
So we can compose ourselves,
right.
and like, I can't be good mom right now. Tag, you're it.
That's
I need
it.
I need a moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
And can we talk about this too?
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot.
And the other thing too is with our families being far away, it's all on us for the most part. We do get help. I'm not saying that we don't get any help, but it's 99% just us.
Yeah.
So we've developed just little quirks among our marriage to be able to, like she said, tag you're it, or cope with things because it is just the two of us and we don't have any choice. We're not going anywhere. So it takes a lot of time. Like I said, we're going on 20 years. So having 20 years of a relationship with somebody who we've known each other for almost 30 years.
I think we just, I don't know. I think we just work very well with trying to solve things together. I think we share the same values and the same beliefs, and we want the same thing. And I think if that was different, then we wouldn't be on the same page, and that's where we would struggle. But I feel like without a doubt, we both agree to like what we want and need for each other and the kids. And that makes it so easy when things aren't very easy. Is that, we share those same values, and the love is just so strong. It's like, I love him so much. And those kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes I remember one time this woman, she said, this was before kids. And she said, you love Justin so much. How are you ever going to have enough love for kids? And I was like, like, I didn't even know how to answer that. I was like, I don't know if I'm bothering her. I just excused myself, like, huh?
You guys are so
I
cute.
think
Oh
we
my
just,
gosh.
She's got a lot of love, and it shows in a lot of ways, and I'm thankful for
and
her. every
it's
day.
mutual. It's very mutual. And I'm very grateful that we understand what good, healthy love is. It is very
Yeah,
good.
because there are a lot of people that don't. I mean, I've actually had friends that have said straight out, I don't.
Yeah.
Me and my husband, we wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. Like you would if you were in our shoes, because it's your kid And you
And
do
it
what you
just-
have to do. And then you give
and
each
it's
other
like-
breaks, and you know when you've had enough. And
Yeah.
like you said, you know,
I think the big thing is when you realize you're not on the same page, recognizing that and talking
Yes.
about it and coming together and figuring out what the best way to proceed is versus just letting yourselves drift because you're on those two different pages going in different stories at that point.
mhm.
Coming back
No.
together and
Kind of like reel each other back into focus. It's,
Mhm.
yeah, I know we've developed quite a bit of that.
I think we forgive each other much more quicker than we did when we were younger too. It's like with the kids and life, it's like
We've got no time to be upset.
to be upset with you. We got too much to do and we're just over it so fast.
You know,
It's like
one thing I will add, I'll add about Kim that I've recognized over the years is her occupation as an OT. She works with geriatric patients like 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old. So she's been doing this now for 12 years now, going on 12 years. And so she's working with a lot of people end stage of their life. She's always getting different advice from these older folks, marriage advice, things that she brings home to me. And the one thing that I noticed that she doesn't take anything for granted because she sees a lot of people at the end of their life who their children are grown and gone, or maybe they've never had children, or they don't have siblings, or their spouse is deceased and they're alone. And so she has a really good way of making sure that every single moment that we're here on this planet counts for something. And we're going to have times where we're angry or upset, and it's not going to be a perfect day, but there's always something perfect in that day somewhere because she makes it that way. And that's really helpful because there's times where I'm not having a great day, and she definitely helps out quite a bit.
thanks.
Yeah.
You do too.
Aw. Okay, so there's two things before we wrap up. So one, we can kind of talk about that in the next episode too, about how you started advocating and you know, Capitol Hill and all that, because I kind of want to get into that too. But so I know you said that you like to keep Justin on his toes with all of your dreams and spontaneous ideas. And I have to tell you that you both have gone above and beyond when it comes to Isaac's aNORAble home. Just bringing every single like inch and aspect of this home to life is just amazing. Can you share just a tiny glimpse of it, because we're gonna do an episode on it, of what Isaac's aNORAble home is and what your mission is, and then we'll do a deeper dive in the next episode. Go.
So Isaac's aNORAble home is an Airbnb and art gallery dedicated to our children and the disability community. It is a place where people can come from all over the world to stay and learn about what a world should be if everyone was included, everyone including people with disabilities. They can come see artwork created by artists with disabilities. They can come to our welcome hall that is filled with portraits from advocates from all over the world that are supporting our mission. And they can come read books about disability awareness. That's what our libraries are filled with here in the bedroom. And they can come and be themselves. We want everyone to feel loved and welcome just as they are. That's what Isaac and Nora have taught us, is that everyone, whether they have a disability or not, they have a story and they have struggles that they face with, that they deal with, and everyone deserves love and everyone is worthy. And we just want people to come here and kind of feel that they are loved just as they are. And when they leave, they should share that love with others.
Yeah. I think the one thing too that I like the way Kim says it, how it sparks conversations. So people who have no idea about any type of disability, maybe they're traveling for a wedding or whatever the case may be, and they happen to come upon our Airbnb. Most of the time they'll know what they're coming to because we have some descriptions, but when they get here, maybe they'll see pictures and faces of people with disabilities.
Or they'll meet the host who has a disability.
Right. And one of our missions would hopefully eventually start hiring people with disabilities to help manage the house and host different events and do various things. We want to, supply meaningful employment to people with disabilities.
And,
through hosting and through the artwork here. Yeah.
right. So that's kind of a glimpse as to what's coming up.
All right. And then lastly, I sent you the flyer for What's Your Word. So of course, our words are very powerful. They can inspire us to do great things. They can remind us of our importance or simply remind us to breathe and live in the moment. I know that I had hand stamped both your kids' one. So now is your turn to choose a word that I will hand stamp for you. And if you would be willing to share why you chose that word.
I would choose grace. I think grace is a very strong word because no one is perfect and we're all trying our very, very best. And I feel like if we all just extended grace to one another, we could forgive a little bit easier and accept a little bit better than we would naturally do. So I think grace is
It's a good one.
Grace is my word. If anything, I wish people would extend more grace to me when I don't always get it right. And I wish my kids would sometimes because I'm not perfect for my kids. Sometimes I don't get it right. I love how you extend grace to me, when I don't get it right. So I think that would be my word because I think the world would be a bit kinder if we did that a bit more.
I agree. And how about you, Justin?
I pick a word too. Well, I think I like the word that you picked. I know I'm not going to take it. I don't know if mine is too long, but when you first asked that, the first thing that came to mind is sort of along the same lines as grace, more like compassion.
I can see that.
I like that word. I think that encompasses a lot of what we're trying to portray in the world through this house. And that kind of goes through to anybody. I think you can be compassionate to anybody, not just those with disabilities or people who are helping people with disabilities, anybody you come across in your life, food service workers or people passing in the street, anybody that you can apply compassion to. If we all did that, how much better would the world be if we all just showed that to everybody? So I think compassion would be a word that I'd like to choose.
I love it. Okay, well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode with Justin and Kim. Stay tuned to find out more about Isaac's aNORAble home.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us as we spread awareness through our personal stories and the many resources shared. You can help us by joining our village simply by sharing our show to the masses. If you would like to support the Guilbault Girls on another level, click on the link in the show notes to make a donation in any amount. Add your address and you'll receive a hand-stamped token with the word village on it in appreciation. Be sure to subscribe to our Guilbault Girls podcast and YouTube show, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Guilbault Girls. Till next time.